Hi, I'm coming live to you today from my kitchen, which means I had to get cleaned up a little bit, but we managed. And I'm going to share a little bit about how to restore cast iron cookware. Now, I don't know if you use cast iron cookware or not. It's our favorite, especially for fish, like salmon or a flat iron steak. So yummy. And it's awesome for making cornbread, even baked omelets or pizzas. There are so many different ways you can use cast iron cookware. We also use it for this fabulous dish my husband makes with big pork roast and cabbage and onions and apples. It's really yummy. So there are a lot of different ways that you can use cast iron cookware, but if you're like so many of us, we have cookware that has been out in grandma's garage or the shed or stored away in the attic or somewhere and hasn't been used for a long time. And it might look a little bit something like this. This is actually something that a friend of mine inherited from her grandmother. And it's very old and rusty. And if it doesn't look quite that bad, it might look a little bit something like this. This one's not quite as old, but you can still see it needs a little bit of restoration. And then if you are like me and you use your cast iron, what happens to me is usually my husband uses my cast iron and then it just takes me stupidly long to get it cleaned up. So this is actually just for illustration. I made salmon in our cast iron skillet today, and I'm going to show you the different stages of taking care of your cast iron skillet. So we're going to start with this one, which is always kept usable unless I leave it on the counter for a couple days. But in this case, it was just since lunch, and it's been kept in decent condition since we bought it. So it's probably the easiest cast iron to take care of. And I'm just going to turn this video camera so that you can see. Ooh, this worked earlier. Why is it not wanting to go? Oh, I know. I tightened all these doohickeys. There we go. There we go. Okay, so that's the cast iron skillet that I used today for lunch. Now, when I start working on cast iron like this that's just been used and it's covered in oil, oil is actually fabulous because you don't want the iron to rust. Anytime you put iron with water, you're going to get rust because the iron, the Fe, is going to interact with the oxygen in the water. So oil is good, and you can see that a lot of the yuckiness just wipes right out. And this was actually I made salmon cooked in butter, so the oil is a butter. You know, when I was gathering all my supplies for this video, I didn't think about the fact that I would need a trash can maybe. There we go. That was an easy fix. All right, so basically we just wipe it out. We do not use water and we do not use soap. We just wipe out the skillet and get all the crud out of it. And the key thing is to make sure that there aren't any exposed areas, that you just have a light layer of oil all spread out all over the piece. Now, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I do have a couple of small areas right here in the middle. What's that say? Okay. Right here in the middle where there's a little bit of stuff stuck to the pan. So I'm gonna show you how to take care of that. This actually works on if you have a little bit more than just this. This is not very much, but if you have more stuck to the pan, the same method will work when you're done cooking. So I use coarse kosher salt. Doesn't have to be a particular brand, just big salt. Doesn't even have to be kosher, it just has to be big salt. And you just put a nice liberal amount of coarse salt on your skillet and take a dishcloth and just rub it and use that friction and abrasiveness of the salt to lift off those little bits of food that are stuck on. And this works extremely well. you're just gonna keep doing that until all that stuck on gooiness is gone. And sometimes you can kind of feel it on the bottom of the skillet. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm kind of like using my fingernail at the end of the rag to run across the surface of the skillet so that I can tell if there's anything still stuck on the skillet. Just in that area. And then sometimes you'll think you're all done, and when you put oil on it, you'll find another place that has a little bit of food stuck on it, and that's fine. You can just repeat the same process. Now, since I just rubbed my skillet down with salt, I am going to apply a small amount of oil back in the skillet for storage. And this is just to keep the iron from, oh, I got to get all the salt out. Hold on. It's just to keep the iron from oxidizing with any, water that's in the air and creating rust on your skillet while it's in storage. And for us, storage just means in the regular cabinet, actually right underneath where I'm standing, because we use this on a weekly basis. We use this skillet. If you don't use your skillet on a weekly basis, you should probably pull it out every once in a while and apply a little bit of oil. Now you don't want to do too much, because that's funny, oil on the back side of your skillet can start a fire when it's cooking on the stove. So you don't want to put a thick, drippy layer of oil on your skillet, especially on the outside, the underneath side. But you do just want to have a nice, light coating of oil. And now you can see that the stuck on food that was on there earlier is gone. So I'm going to turn it over and just apply a light amount of oil to the back side as well. I need a little bit more. Now, like I said, you do not want to use soap and water on your cast iron. The soap is because your cast iron has a seasoning in it, and that comes from this oil and whatever you cook with. It keeps the cast iron pretty close to a non-stick surface if you keep it seasoned well. But if you use soap, not only is your seasoning going to taste like soap, affecting the foods that you eat, but you're also going to remove part of the seasoning as well. So it makes the cast iron less effective. Okay, so this one is done, and it's going to go back in my cabinet. Now, if I'm going to stack two pieces of cast iron together, I might take a little piece of paper towel like this, because the surface of the oil can cause them to stick together, and you don't want that. You can get it apart, but it's just easier to put a little piece of paper towel or something between them before you stack them. So that's my storage tip. Okay, so this one looks pretty good. Thank you.